We pick up with chapter 12 called I Have My Reservations. Through the years of running Ski Tip as a ski lodge, we had added on a wing here, and a few years later, another wing there, and a larger kitchen, then a larger dining room, another wing, and so on. During these years, we increased accommodations for guests from 12 to 70. In the earlier years with fewer guests, we had more time to enjoy them. The later guest-filled years, to be honest, were still years of many pleasures. I got a letter in the mail today, I told Max worriedly. It's a request for 80 reservations, but they state they need only 37 single beds. I wonder how they're figuring. I worried to myself, let's see, 37 single bed leaves 43 people. If they mean 24 more couples, but that leaves one left over. Maybe he's a traveler, maybe he comes and goes. Anyway, I won't worry about it. We can't accommodate as many as 80 anyway. Max laughed at my muttering. Leave me out of this. It's your department. I'll fix the plumbing, cut the firewood, and build the fires. You will? I mean now? I mean fix the plumbing right now? In the old bathroom, some youngster put his mother's face cream jar down the toilet. She got it out, but now the toilet's got a leak on the side. When you flush it, it squirts out a stream of water. Max hurried down the hall. After a few minutes, he returned. I found an empty number 10 fruit can in the kitchen and put it on the side of the toilet to catch the squirt. Just keep an eye on it until I get back from ski school. Then I'll see if I can fix it. And with that, he left, and I picked up the ringing phone. I'd like reservations for my wife and me, the voice said. There will be 14 children. When he heard my gasp, he continued, Oh, I'm sorry. Meant to tell you we're 4 couples. Glad to know, I answered with relief. For one who hates to write letters, it is especially hard to correspond with perfect strangers. Every letter to Ski Tip deserved, I thought, a friendly and newsy answer. I felt I should tell them how much snow we had, how good the skiing was, and describe the beauty of the mountains. Maybe it was all to the good that I did write this way, as many guests told me they just had to come to Ski Tip to meet the nut who wrote those letters. One family, from as far as the Port of Spain, Trinidad, told us that they chose Ski Tip because of the friendly and crazy answers to their inquiries. In the first years at the lodge, I tried to keep the number of guests arriving, their date of arrival and of departure in my head. With accommodations for only 12 guests, it wasn't too hard to do. If a guest or two were lost in my memory, we would send them down to Oma's house nearby. She told me one day that if I continued doing that, she would have to begin calling her place Ski Tip West. Luckily, about 3 years later, Alice Winslow McDonald arrived. Alice became one of our closest friends. We soon accepted her as one of the family and still do. Alice had left her job in Denver at one of the large hospitals. After staying a weekend as a guest, she returned and announced she was going to be a ski bum the rest of the ski season. Having discovered my lack of charts, she brought along a bunch of hospital assignment sheets. We were now better organized with these sheets hung on the wall next to the phone. After that, I was initiated into what I called my human chess game. I was now able to move the guests around on the chart before they arrived, instead of greeting them at the door and wondering where would I place them. No 2 letters were the same. Soon as I got to thinking I had all the answers, along would come a different question. Do you have skiable snow by Thanksgiving? Well, no problem there. But the letter would end with, do you think you could find us some good grade sheep? Or find a rancher who would ship us some? Oh, then another letter would come along. Some of us want to come out. Maybe March, maybe April. Do you have room? And by the way, maybe there'll be 2 couples of us, or maybe 10 of us, or maybe just me. Do you have room? I answered that one easily. Maybe we have, and maybe we haven't. While I was county clerk, Max often answered the letters those first years. Neither of us kept carbon copies. When it came to billing the guest, we couldn't remember if we quoted a rate. Our standard price was $3.75 for lodging, breakfast, and dinner. But sometimes the guest will pull out Mac's letter to him. I would read, we serve breakfast and dinner. Lunches may be obtained at the Basin Shelter. Hence, we will deduct 50 cents from the price of $4 quoted. So it's $3.50, Mrs. Dercum? Of course, I then assured the guest it was. We sometimes left embarrassed we felt embarrassed charging that much. I soon realized my letters required a map of how to get to our place. Often guests had become lost. They'd miss the turnoff west of Idaho Springs and find themselves driving over Berthoud Pass to Kremling. They would then have to drive 45 miles back south to Dillon and east to Ski Tip. This would be a drive at least 3 or 4 times the distance of coming over Loveland Pass. One guest never did find Ski Tip, even though he did go over Loveland Pass. He gave up and drove on west. Even though it was snowing and blowing pretty hard, he wrote to us later, I couldn't resist the temptation of getting out of my car at the top of the pass. After rubbernecking around, I can honestly say I don't remember ever before having seen a more enthralling and perfect ski terrain. I believe I know where you are, but must have missed your place as I drove on down maybe 10 miles or more, he continued, to an antique horse-drawn hearse in front of a log hotel called Wildwood. Is your ski cabin near this? It started to snow so heavily and I didn't have your phone number, so I gave up. Besides a map, I began to see I'd better put down our phone number too and make carbon copies of our correspondence. Some of the letters left me completely confused. This one, for instance. I'm thinking of taking a ski trip to the west this year, but at the moment it is not certain that I or anyone else will make the trip. I hope that someone will be fortunate to make the trip. Or another one read, my mother-in-law will not require the room. However, please reserve both beds you have in this room for my son. He will figure out who sleeps where when he gets there. Or, our son Jimmy cannot come, but his brother John will take his place, as will the next in line, Frank, who is inseparable from his brother Jimmy. So there will be 5 of them, 2 boys and 1 girl. So glad the skiing is good. Another one read, I feel quite sure there will be no problem in filling our reservation for 10 couples. We may not know what the mix will be, but hope for the best. We enclose a couple of our 4-year calendars. Kindest regards. That one had a postscript. It said, P.S. I've been calling all over the U.S., but I keep losing ground all the time. This P.S. really puzzled me. I decided I'd just ignore it. It was hard to answer the letters, especially in the evening, with music, laughter, and ski talk drifting my way from the living room. a sympathetic guest would wander into the office. "Come on out, Edna, I'm enjoying the fun." I didn't need much urging. However, after succumbing that evening, and the next, and the next, I was very soon days behind in my letter writing. Not only that, but more letters had come in and piled up on my desk. One January 19th, I typed, "Your letter of December 5th certainly deserved a more prompt answer, and I apologize, but the skiing was just too good." Needless to say, I never heard from those guests again. Either we hire a desk clerk, I decided, or maybe one of our ski bums would like to make a little extra money and do the letters in the evening after work. One of the girls said, "I'd love to do it, Edna. I can type the letters after waiting tables in the evening." What a relief. There was one drawback, however. Our room was over the office. Then our ski bum, coming in from a late date, would begin her typing. We finally got accustomed to the staccato sounds as she attacked the mail at 1 a.m. After reading the replies to her letters, I began to realize I had better proofread her letters before she mailed them. To one of her letters came the answer, "We don't understand. You write that you're reserving for us a room with path. Don't you have indoor plumbing?" A few times when I was off at races, I'd get my nephew Peter to take over collection of the bills. He offered to do this in the mornings as he was quite busy bartending evenings. I hadn't realized that throwing any figures at Peter would send him into a mental freeze. Luckily, at the bar, the guest just signed a tab, which we'd attach to the bill. After returning home, I would often find a note from a guest who had checked out, saying, "By now Peter will have told you he couldn't figure out my bill, so I told him you'd calculate it and send it on to me." Peter had so many other talents. He was a natural storyteller, a popular bartender, an excellent illustrator, but he hated figures, unless they were lovely female ones. One of the most wonderful things to me, at least, was that Ski Tip became financially able to hire a full-time reception clerk plus 2 cooks. I realized that I'd always disliked handing a bill to the guests who had become close friends. It was like charging someone we had invited to our home. Reservations came in regularly, mostly as a result of word-of-mouth recommendations, proving that our unbusinesslike methods at Ski Tip might be inefficient, but our ski lodge was unique and popular.